Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Norfolk Master Plan 2035 workshop, virtual offering, a companion to a workshop that was offered about a month ago in the town in person. And we're happy to have you with us this evening. My name is Josh Fiala. I'm a principal planner at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. I'm joined by my colleagues Gloria Hung Pu and Lindsay Randall, and we're here with representing our team to engage with you all this evening and get your thoughts about the future of Norfolk, the town, and to get your feedback integrated with this master plan process. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day this evening, and we hope to have an engaging Zoom session tonight. So we'll be doing, just forewarning, some small group discussion and have some exercises set up to get your feedback this evening. And really that's why we're here, is to hear from you, but we'll frame that discussion along the way. We have, this is the second, as I mentioned, in a series of introductory community workshops for the Norfolk Master Plan process. We'll be having a third as well in another couple weeks' time. Our first community forum was hosted in person at the Freeman Kennedy School back on April 25th. Our agenda this evening is effectively the same as that first community forum. We're effectively offering this session for those that missed that first session and who may not have been able to attend in person. So don't worry if you missed that session. That's why we're here tonight. If you did attend that meeting, thank you so much for joining us again this evening. We think that there can still be value for you in this session tonight, and we'd love to get into even more detail with you about your thoughts and responses in continuation of that conversation. We're thinking of these first set of forums really as the same conversation. We're trying to broaden that conversation through multiple sessions to engage as many Norfolk residents as possible. So we thank you for coming along with us tonight. The agenda is relatively straightforward. We'll give a brief introduction to the master plan and what it's about, what the content for the plan looks like and shapes up like over the course of this process. We'll be going into then, as I mentioned, in some discussion to hear from you, feedback around challenges that you see in the town today, and thinking about what the community priorities for some of those challenges are, and then turning toward a more positive look at the town, thinking about how we would assemble a future vision and what we might like to build toward as we address those challenges over time. Then we'll also give you a feel for the next steps in this process and how you can stay involved as we keep moving along. So a very brief master plan introduction to get us started. The master plan is being guided by a master plan steering committee. We're very thankful to have their dedication and effort throughout this process. We're meeting with them on about a monthly basis. The master plan steering committee includes the entirety of the planning board, those elected officials, as well as residents from a variety of sort of places in life and locations in the town, and we think are really a nice collection and representative of a variety of viewpoints from the town. We have with us, just to recognize those names that I see in my participant list, Chad Peck, who's a member of the Master Plan Steering Committee, Kevin Calcutt, Melissa Mayo, and I believe that's who I see. So thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your dedication to this process as we move along. And just by the way, the Master Plan Steering Committee meetings are part of the regular planning board meetings, and they're open to the public. So if you're curious and interested, you're welcome to join us and listen in on those, or even participate as we move along through this master plan process. That Master Plan Steering Committee, comprised of Norfolk residents, is supported by our team at MAPC. We're the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, the regional planning agency of the greater Boston area. We are serving as a consultant, in this case, to the town of Norfolk to produce the master plan, but we're really just the sort of instrument of the town in this case. Think of us like the AI technology, except with real people doing the work, trying to be up with the current events there. But we're not the sort of content creators. We think of the community as the content creators. We're just here to help frame the process to get that content from the community, and then also to put pen to paper once you've told us what the ideas should be. So that's really our role. It is your master plan, and sessions like this are what create the content for the master plan, and it's really critical that we hear from you. So thank you for joining us and being willing to participate this evening. Just a note on our team, we do have planners across a wide variety of specialties, all of the specialties that are needed for a master plan, including land use, transportation, economic development, housing, arts and culture, public health, community facilities and services, and the like. So from a technical standpoint, the master plan is well covered, and we'll be able to provide feedback and information, data, et cetera, and analyses to support the direction that the town would like to take this plan in. So if you didn't get a chance as we were getting rolling to take a community survey or an attendee survey, excuse me, for this session this evening, we would encourage you to do so. You can do that at the link that's on the screen, and Gloria will also maybe insert it again in the chat at this moment so you all can click on that. But it's important for us to track participation as we go through this process, to know that who we have engaged and who we have not engaged, so that we can follow up as this process continues, perhaps with demographic cohorts which have not participated so far. So we ask you to fill out this brief survey and help us with that. Just a notion of what's in the survey. So we ask questions about whether you've been involved with previous master plan events, your race, ethnicity, gender, age, how long you've lived in Norfolk, household income, whether you own or rent your home, whether you have children, seniors, or persons with a disability living in your home, and what precinct you live in. And all of that helps us to understand who you are in a general way. It's all anonymous, of course, but also who collectively we haven't reached, and then we can target those audiences for later meetings. So thank you for taking the time to do that as well this evening and help us to understand who we're communicating with. We also, maybe before I leave this slide, I'll just leave it up so you can have that link. I did want to open a in-meeting Zoom poll so you can also tell us a more brief subset of those questions so we can see them now. And let me see if I can bring this up again. Here you go. So popping up on your screen, you should have a 3-question poll that will help us cater this content to the audience that's here with us. The first question is, how long have you lived in Norfolk? That should be on your screen now. The second question is, do you have a child in the Norfolk Public Schools or the regional school system, as it may be? And then, did you attend the first master plan visioning forum on April 25th? And if you wouldn't mind taking that survey real quick. I know that we're asking you to do multiple surveys potentially in this moment, but the one on your screen from the Zoom poll will help us to cater our remarks to you. So it's very helpful. And then I'll share the results right now. It looks like we've got all the participants. Thank you. So you're, let me just see here, predominantly, I would say on the newer side of residents between 0 and 5 years, 54%, followed by a little bit longer tenured residents, 6 to 10 years with 31%. Do you have a child in the Norfolk Public School System? 64% said yes, so that's great. We intended, although this meeting is open to all residents of Norfolk, we intended this a little bit as a targeted follow-up for families or households with children or caregivers. So it looks like that played through. The last question, predominantly 82% did not attend the first forum. So we'll make sure that we cover sort of everything that we covered in that first forum and give us all a baseline of information to work from. So thank you for taking that first poll. We'll have a couple other polls as we go through this session. So a brief master plan overview to get us all on the same page and help everyone understand what this is about. So what is a master plan? It's really a long-term planning document that looks out to guide the town's actions and policies and spending, all of those things over the next 10 years. It has a hierarchy of information, which we'll be building through this process. It starts at the top of that hierarchy with a vision statement, which you all will be helping us to craft with your responses through meetings such as this, and also through a community survey, which we'll tell you about later. Underneath that vision statement are a series of topics, some of which I've already mentioned, but that give a comprehensive and holistic view of the town from a planning perspective. You can see those 9 topics arrayed below the vision statement. And then eventually what we're creating through this process are a series of topic goals and strategies for each of those topic areas that reinforce and respond to the vision statement, and then respond in even more detail through a series of recommended actions in an implementation plan to give a very granular and detailed step-by-step approach to making action on those goals happen, which will then ultimately be building toward that vision statement for the town. So it's a variety of levels of information, and it's a well-used tool for municipalities to direct their priorities through the help of their residents over, as I said, the next 10 years or so. And it's a really effective tool for the community to align priorities over the next few years. As I mentioned too, it's guided by a Master Plan Steering Committee and built upon information from the residents, such as yourselves. So how do we get there from here? There's a few steps in this process. We're at the front end of this very simplified diagram, which is around highlighting issues. So we're trying to understand as best we can what challenges you think the town is facing today, what challenges you face as a resident in your daily life, what things you think the town should be addressing that may not be addressed, or what things are consistent challenges that never seem to be resolved. Any and all of that is fair game. Then in the next phase of our work, which will start over the summer, we will turn toward thinking about solutions to those problems, which have been identified collectively with residents through a variety of mechanisms, such as this meeting. And then, as I said, moving toward the details and providing a roadmap for how those types of solutions can be achieved. So it's not just about the ideas, it's also about how to get things done and move these ideas towards implementation with the town. To get at that first phase of work, highlighting issues, our team has been involved in a few complementary efforts. The first of which has been so far more of an internal effort on our side of the partnership here, and that's having to do with data analysis, looking at the existing conditions for all of those topic areas. We're putting together as a deliverable to the steering committee a set of topic briefs, which will include data, current data and mapping and other forms of analysis to give a baseline of information to move towards that goal setting in the next phase of work. We've also been having a series of conversations with town leadership, so whether that be staff, board and committee leads, or others in the town, and then also hosting as many sessions such as this one as we can to talk with residents and hear from you directly about what you're seeing in the town. And then also have a community survey, which I mentioned, which is gathering and expanding our reach and the amount of people who are contributing their voice to this process. But I would say one of the reflections that we can make so far from what we've heard is that there's a lot of things going right in the town. So Norfolk has quite a few sustainable growth patterns that are occurring. Of course, there's room for improvement. We've heard some from the interviews already about the need to expand housing options. Perhaps there are some town assets which could be leveraged a little bit better than they have been to date. There are some bright spots like some of the mixed-use development that has already occurred in the town center, but of course there are some large vacant properties in town center as well. Thinking about ways to maximize public investments. I know that the new fire station approval was a big topic in that successful vote at the beginning of this year. And then continuing in that vein with high quality town services is an important feature, which we've heard from many voices so far. We've also heard a lot already about the needs for this process to result in realistic and cost-effective implementation. So thinking about once we get there in terms of what are the problems we're solving, what are the solutions that might be able to address those, maybe examples from similar towns about how some of those solutions have been created successfully in other places that could be a model, thinking about continuing these community conversations with leadership and others about what really could be an effective solution. And then there will, of course, in any town need to be some work around prioritization and being strategic about how limited resources are leveraged in the best way possible. So that's all a part of this work, and we're happy to continue this process with you all. So that's an overview of this process in totality. And now we're going to shift our gears a little bit and frame out the first conversation we'll be having this evening, which is around challenges. So we start with challenges on purpose, where we would like to have, that is, as I pointed out, an important part of our initial work here. But it's also, in a meeting like this, I think easier to start perhaps with a little bit of that negative energy and to get that negative energy out. And we all have, things that bother us, and we'd love to have a format and forum to complain about them. So we'll give you that opportunity in just a few minutes. We've also been using some other tools, which I've mentioned. So we had a town tour with our full team of MAPC staff in December, where we were joined by planning board members and your town planner, Richard McCarthy. We've been doing, as I mentioned, the existing conditions analysis to get a more of a data filled perspective as opposed to the lived experience perspectives, which we've been hearing in meetings such as this one. And I did mention the interviews which we've hosted, which have been reached up over 25 of those individual interviews at this point. And you can see some of the individuals that we've been in contact with there. And we continue to revisit these types of interviews as this process continues as well. So what have we heard in some of these discussions so far? We've heard that the public services and facilities should keep up with future growth. That's both been a success and a concern. So I think that the town has been doing a stronger, had a stronger case for doing that successfully in recent years, but there are some things that we've heard have been lacking over the previous years. So that's something on the horizon. The impacts of housing options, so affordability for starter homes, families who have just come to the town, or people who have been in the town for some years and have maybe a fixed income and looking for alternatives to their current home and not being able to find those options in the town, but want to stay in the town. We've heard that quite a bit. Also thinking about various services, commercial services, businesses which are not present in the town, and having to go outside of the town for certain things. That's something we want to hear specifically about your patterns of use this evening. And then also we've heard a lot about walkability, pedestrian orientation, and the lack of sidewalks in certain locations in the town, and providing stronger alternatives to driving around. A snapshot of some of that data that I've been mentioning, just some very straightforward demographic data, just so we're all on the same page. The town sits at about 11,600 residents today. The racial demographics of the town are predominantly white, and that probably even more so than that figure shows, because included in the town demographics are the local prison populations as well. The 324 businesses in the town support over 3,000 jobs, which is fantastic, both in terms of the local economy and offering some employment opportunities. There are 3,000 households from that 11,000 plus resident mix. The households are predominantly owner households in terms of housing tenure, 94% of which are owners. There, I think the availability of rental properties as well is another aspect of the housing options, which aren't as available, which people have mentioned. The households are relatively well off. 159,000 is the median household income, which is quite a bit above the Commonwealth's median household income, which is around 125,000. There are nonetheless 739 cost burden households, which means that the household is spending 30% or more on their housing costs on a monthly basis. So there are households where the housing cost is impacting their budget and the ability to do other things. In terms of transportation, you can see the map which is on the screen highlights where the current pedestrian facilities are located throughout the town, either sidewalks or walking trails or shared use paths. That's what the blue and red lines are showing up there. So not full coverage on the transportation network, the roadway network, which is what we're hearing about in that previous comment. 87% of workers are driving alone to work, and almost the remainder of that are taking transit to work. So the commuter rail station, which is at the town center, a lot of people view as a strong asset. I believe its ridership has dipped somewhat since the pandemic, with a variety of other work arrangements occurring, including work from home continuing to this day. And as I've mentioned and alluded to, we do have a community survey which is out presently and attracting responses. This is just a snapshot we took from that community survey to give you a feel and to encourage you that if this doesn't jive with your experience, then you should also take the survey and add your voice to this. But this snapshot represents about 550 fellow residents who have responded so far to the survey. So getting to be a pretty solid number. We'd love to push that participation up towards 1,000. The top three challenges we've heard through the survey so far are managing growth and change was the top response, attracting new investment and development, whether that be at town center or at the 1A, 115 intersection, and expanding town amenities was the other top challenge that we're seeing. So if that, again, if you'd like to put your mark on that to say that those aren't, either reinforce that or diverge from those three challenges, we'd invite you to take that survey, and we'll share how to do that in a moment. But first, we'd love to open our first of the two sort of small group discussion sessions we have designed for you this evening. In this case, since we're a virtual session, we're using what's called Google Jamboards. So these are Jamboards we will share a link for, and then you can open that link in your browser and interact with the Jamboard and add your virtual Post-it notes as you would add a Post-it note in real life. And we'll share with you how to do that. There's a tool, once you get into that page, a toolbar which will show up on the left side of your screen. About at the center of that toolbar is the sticky note tool, and we'll show you how to use that, facilitating the small group discussion. And then you can just type out what you'd like as we talk through the challenges. So the first part of our breakout discussion this evening is simply, what main issues should the master plan address? And this is from your perspective. We don't need any additional expertise beyond you, the resident, telling us what you're experiencing or what you're seeing. You are the expert in the town of Norfolk. You know it very well. The second activity in this breakout discussion, which we'll open in a moment, is highlighting the activities that you are able to accomplish within the town and those which you have to leave the town to accomplish. So what is sort of in or out of Norfolk? That helps us to understand the patterns of use and activity and the patterns of the daily lives of residents as well. So again, we'll be using the same Jamboard for both of those exercises in this case. And then we'll have a report back once we get through the discussion. We'll spend 15 or 20 minutes or so to have this discussion with you all. Great. Thanks, Gloria, and thank you everyone for joining in. I think really fruitful discussions. And so we don't need to hear all the comments, but if there are a few volunteer voices, so maybe we're not the only ones talking in the big room, we would like to hear if you thought a point of discussion from your group was particularly relevant, that you might let us know what you talked about. So do we have any volunteers give a thought or two about what you heard?
Yeah, I don't mind going. So, to be honest, if you were to kind of aggregate what we talked about in our group, I think what you'll find is that Norfolk has a sense of community, but it lacks the physical outlets in a lot of ways to bring the town together, whether that be communication so that people understand what's going on, whether that be places to go for necessities like Target or groceries, places for the community to get outside, that kind of stuff. So I think what you're going to find is, a town with a big heart that gets along, but I think there needs to be more opportunity for all ages within the town.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Anyone else?
I agree with Richard, and what we were saying, Josh, before you just came back on, is there's a lack of, there's certainly a lack of physical spaces to get together, say in like the downtown area. And the communication, which is what Lucy and I were just chatting about either before you came on or right when you came on, we rely on a Facebook page that's run by a couple of citizens in Norfolk. It's like a whole page of rules, and I completely understand why there are rules. But then it kind of makes it difficult to get all of the various thoughts on different things going on in town. I've actually had a conversation with our assistant town administrator about maybe doing a town newsletter, because I think it would be helpful. There's so many people that don't know what's going on in the school meetings and in the town meetings, and you can't possibly attend all of them. Josh, our planning board meetings alone are 3.5 hours. So not, especially working parents can't do that. So maybe putting together, a newsletter of some kind, and that could include when the farmers market is, and what the high level notes are from the master plan meeting or the planning board meeting or select board meeting, maybe just something monthly like that. So just some kind of communication so people know what's going on, and what's going on behind closed doors, if you will, even though they're open meetings. If people don't attend, it might as well be behind closed doors.
I think, Melissa, to your point, I think one of the things that I don't think would be a heavy lift, but I was just thinking of, there's that website, Community Kangaroo. I can't imagine it would be that hard to use, to have a centralized Google Calendar, or a wiki page or something like that has all of the different activities on there, and maybe a group of people that can approve them. And a wiki page that has kind of the happenings, maybe the notes or the minutes if necessary, just kind of a place that brings everything together.
Right. Yeah, that would be great.
Hey, Melissa, it's Diane from Business Association. How are you?
Hey, Diane. Good. How are you? Good.
Just going off of what you all just mentioned, I just quickly jumped on our town website and completely agree with the comment around the Facebook community page, being a resident as well as a business owner in town. Sharing perspective around, when you go, if you're looking at another town, it's like shop in Norfolk or eat in Norfolk, right? You can go to these town websites and you can see all the businesses that are available. That if you're a new resident, you can see, here's all my restaurant options. Here's where I could go shopping. We don't have anything like that on our just town website, where a lot of communities, especially around us, have things like that. Hearing the amount of businesses that were in town and how many jobs we provide was a shocking number to me. Exciting, but how do we communicate what resources we already have in town?
Great. Thank you all for sharing that and giving us little insights into the conversations that we might not have all heard. We, in our group as well, just to share, we heard sort of a lot of great detailed discussion around a fundamental challenge, as members of our group saw, the notion of increasing commercialization and how that relates to the tax burden that residents feel, while also maintaining the semi-rural feel of the town, and what types of businesses specifically could be attracted, and how is Norfolk positioned to attract those businesses, but also businesses that would be fit with that identity of the town and what people would like to see. So I think that was a very interesting discussion, which I think the master plan can try to focus on as well. So thank you for that. I'm going to actually move us along. We'll take a look at the maps in terms of the services and resources. I suspect that there are patterns which reinforce some of the discussion which we just heard. But let's go ahead and shift to some framing around the vision and move off the issues and challenges that we're seeing right now. And how do we build upon solving those challenges today, but also do it in such a way that we're building towards something larger and a shared community vision. So in creating a community vision, we're really seeking as an initial deliverable in this process, a high level compact statement, which we're hopeful that can be crafted in such a way that most Norfolk residents would read and say, like, yeah, that's where I'd like to see the town headed, or I agree with that. It's really a statement which is purposefully general and high level enough that we can get that sense of agreement around it, but it also is a guidepost for the master plan. And so this is a statement which is practical and useful for the town as well. There will be many things which are covered by the master plan. Inevitably, there will be some future topic or controversy which is not addressed by the master plan. And the vision statement gives you a tool to measure those future discussions on, to say, which direction would be more consistent with this shared vision that we've created for ourselves. So it's guiding our master plan content, but also guiding future decisions as well. And it will inform the principles of our plan in such a way that the goals are aligning with and reinforcing the vision. So it does really set the benchmark for where our content is headed in the plan overall. I think one very interesting way to think about a vision statement in this type of process for communities is the notion of intergenerational equity. And how would you want to leave the town for the next generation? What are you building for? What do you want the town to be left with for your children or your grandchildren? And how is a vision statement? How are the next 10 years building toward that? We might not be able to get completely there in that time period, but you cannot get there unless you've set the direction and are working toward it. So we're not starting in a vacuum. The 2007 master plan set some very important hallmarks for the vision, which I think we can build upon. This isn't, we're not completely changing directions, of course. There was a lot of strength there. So that master plan highlighted some key features: that the town center would be developed into a traditional pedestrian-oriented New England village. I think that has been a focus of the town since the previous master plan. Of course, that is not fully resolved and played through, but I think a lot of progress has been made from where the town center was at in 2007. So that, I think, continues to probably be something that's relevant in terms of a community vision going forward. We heard already in our discussions this evening the importance of preserving the town's residential, semi-rural New England character, and thinking of the farms, the forests, the ponds and streams, the natural environment, those areas of conservation that are so important to what people think of when they think of the town. And then also thinking about the commercialization and business opportunities that I just mentioned from our small group discussion, and thinking about the better utilization and full development of those areas to, as it says right here in this language, provide a larger share of tax revenues and less dependence on single family home tax revenues. So these are consistent themes which have carried forward. Then lastly, looking to make sure that there are resources sufficient to sustain the future needs of the schools, of other services, of the needs to support residents and businesses alike. So those were some of the previous vision statement features, which we will continue to build upon. Again, this vision statement sits above the entire master plan content. We kind of build from it and build upon it and try to make everything that flows underneath it reinforce the vision statement, how to get there. So in our next exercise, we're going to talk with you about what are the strengths and assets of Norfolk today that we can build upon to make sure that the vision is leveraging what Norfolk has going for it, what's going well and should be continued, and what kind of community values should be emulated in future decision-making. Those are all data points which you can give us, which would help us to get the right language into that vision statement. We've heard some themes, again, from municipal interviews in regard to these things and heard them already tonight in our conversation. So people take pride, great pride, I would say, in the town and the community, which is the town of Norfolk. There has been fiscal responsibility in the way that the municipality has been managed. And that's a feature and something people would like to see carry forward. There has been clear direction through planning. The town has a history of planning and following through on that planning. So this is something that is not new, and I think is something that's valued by the town, which is great to see. And then also, even though we hear some occasional comments about something that's missing, overall, people see a very strong recreation, both amenities and activities, programming that's occurring in the town, and that's something that the families in particular appreciate and see real value in. Again, a snapshot and preview from those 550 plus responses to the community survey so far. The top 3 opportunities which were identified also echo what we've been hearing tonight. So commercial investments to expand local services, restaurants, coffee shops, hair salons, and the like. 91% of the respondents think that that is an opportunity for the town to be focused on. Community events like the farmers market, pop-up cultural events, food trucks, etc., things on the town green, all of that, 63% of respondents see that as a real strong opportunity. And then continuing to strengthen the public amenities like parks and sidewalks in particular, 46% of respondents have highlighted that as an opportunity for the town as well. So we will go back to the Jamboards again and see, it looks like, I will just comment actually, it looks like we've had a fair amount of reduction in our attendee list. So Gloria, I don't know if we want to adjust accordingly. We might only need 2 breakouts now. But so we're going to now have a similar discussion with you using the Jamboards as our tool to talk about the strengths and assets of the town. Hopefully you're a little more familiar with that tool now. And then the other aspect of the exercise in this case, we have a series of spectrums that we're going to ask you to weigh in on, where on one end of that spectrum is one pole extreme in terms of, in this case, the example is how close is Norfolk to your ideal vision? And you'll place a dot on that spectrum, whether you think it's not close or ideal or somewhere in between. And then we've been collecting all those feedback and we'll be combining those with responses we received from the previous forum as well. So let me pause there. We'll have Gloria open up our breakouts and we'll use the Jamboards to get that discussion. And then we'll wrap up after that to share with you some of the next steps and how to get involved with that community survey I've been mentioning.
All right, welcome back.
We're trying to fit in a lot. That was great discussion. We didn't get to our last spectrum in our group, but that's okay. Let me share my screen for the big presentation. Again, we'll wrap you up and try to get you out of here at the 8:30 mark. So maybe since we are where we are with time, let's not do report back. I think we had smaller groups this time, and I will just overall summarize that our discussion was very good and had a lot of depth in terms of naming assets, but also I think really getting into some subtle discussions in our group, which I think helped to expand our understanding of the town and sort of perspectives in it. So thank you for that. So we've got all the notes down and we will take a look at them. one of the things we did want to get to, which expands your ability to give us feedback right now, is one other visioning poll, which I'm launching right now. And it asks 3 questions, which should be on your screen. The first is, Norfolk is a great place to live because, and then you can fill in the blank with a short answer, just a word or a couple key phrases is fine, or a phrase or word. And then the second is, in 2035, Norfolk will be blank. And similarly, you can add a short answer there, just a couple words. And then the last is, the future of Norfolk will be blank. And so please do take a moment to add your thoughts to those. And just a note on some of these exercises too, we will be combining the responses from this session with the responses from the previous session and the subsequent session to basically look for patterns in the data and information that you're telling us. So all of your feedback will be aggregated with others, and that's, I think, the real success of processes like this is when neighbors, not being in discussion necessarily in a one-on-one way, but in discussion more broadly through this process, come up with similar thoughts and answers. We know that there's something there. So that's a really effective way to get at truths. All right, so it looks like about half of you have answered. So I'll give it just 1 second more, see if anyone else is typing frantically. And then we will share out and see what this looks like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that. The results. It looks like interesting. So we don't necessarily see what you put at this moment. We just see that we've gotten some answers from people. I'm sure on the back end of the Zoom responses here, we'll actually be able to see what people put in as their responses, but unfortunately we cannot preview them right now. So I guess that just points us towards the next steps, which is how to stay involved in this process. So we're still at the sort of the front end of this process. It's projected to run through the beginning of 2024 out to about March or so of 2024. We're at the visioning space right now. In the next phase over the summer, we'll be transitioning again to drafting goals, which is the next level down in terms of detail, then be moving from there into defining priorities and moving towards that implementation action plan. We've got everything kind of mapped out in this process. This information is also on the project website, which I'll share with you. We're in the midst of neighborhood workshops or community workshops that are following up from the Visioning Forum, which we hosted last month, and have a community survey out right now. We would like to do one last poll with you to see if you could give us any quick feedback on how best to stay involved in this process. So let me launch that real quick. And it is 4 questions long. And you can see those questions on your screen now. And they ask, how do you want to hear updates about the master plan as we continue on through the next year plus? And do you prefer virtual, in-person, or hybrid meetings? We've hosted both virtual and in-person meetings so far. And then what else could we do to support your participation if you have any additional thoughts? In addition to these meetings where we're asking residents to join us out of their busy days, we have also joined the community at larger events. At the Norfolk baseball opening day, we had our staff members present, and we also plan to be at the Norfolk Community Day on June 10th as well to grow awareness of this process and get people involved. So it looks like we have 1 response so far. We've got a few more now. Give just another moment to wrap up. And I see a question in the chat about snail mailing the survey or survey link. And we have not done that. The reason being that the town has done townwide mailings in the past and has not seen much success from them, and they do come at an expense, of course. So we're endeavoring to get the word out through a few other channels and have had pretty good success so far. Let me share these responses with you now that we've got more. Most people are saying email, the social media, as we've mentioned, is available, the town website as well, the school newsletter, which we have been using as well, flyers around town, and word of mouth. People do prefer Zoom meetings or hybrid. And then we'll look at the answers you've provided for those other questions, which we'll be able to see after this meeting. All right, so thank you for your feedback on those. So I have been mentioning throughout this session and yes, we are collecting emails. Sorry, we're collecting emails. And maybe since we haven't given a form for that, if you don't mind, if you put your email in the chat, we'll add your email to the list. But we'll probably have done so because we have your email from the Zoom registration as well. So in this case, we'd like to recommend to you all, if you have not already, to take the townwide survey, which is open now, and we will continue to keep open through the middle of June. We also, as I mentioned, have another in this workshop series occurring as a hybrid session, which will both be in person at River's Edge and on Zoom on June 5th. It's a morning session in that case at 10 a.m. We will be present with a table and tent at the Norfolk Community Day to publicize the community survey that will still be open at that time. And we'll also we don't have a date yet set for it, but we'll be setting up a workshop with business owners as well. The next Master Plan Steering Committee is likely to be June 13th. And we will be with the planning board at that date at 7 p.m. All of this information we're trying to keep up to date on the project website. That's available for anyone to take a look at mapc.ma/Norfolk 2035. You can also sign up for the email list there as well. And the email list is growing because of the community survey. The email list is well over 500 emails now, somewhere around there. And with that, looks like it's just past 8:30. So we thank you for your time this evening and your participation in this process and your very useful feedback as we build a vision for the future of Norfolk through this master plan. So thank you very much and have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, everybody.